Since EA acquired the license for Star Wars games in 2013, fans have been desperate for a really good Star Wars story, for carefully crafted alien worlds, references to delight die-hard fans, and new lore to expand that galaxy far, far away. And so, an enormous amount of hope has been riding on this game. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is a single-player title combining Soulsborne combat, Uncharted climbing, and Metroidvania level design to create something that is uniquely its own. So, here's everything we loved about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and everything we didn't. Fallen Order takes place 5 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith and the infamous Order 66. The Jedi Order has been destroyed, as have nearly all the Jedi, but at least one remains in the form of protagonist Cal Kestis, a former Padawan who's in hiding as a scrapper on the planet of Bracca. Due to events outside his control, Cal is forced to reveal his powers, and can only escape the Empire's Inquisitors with the help of two mysterious individuals, a woman called Seer and a green alien named Grease, who whisk him away to rebuild the Jedi Order. It's a great premise for a story, and the game's opening action sequences through the industrial metal constructs of Bracca are pure, heart-pounding thrills. Once you're out of the main opening stages, you're led to the main thrust of the game, venturing between various planets to complete the main story objectives and learn new skills, alongside finding additional pickups and cosmetics to decorate Cal, your ship, your droid BD-1, and, of course, your lightsaber. It's a neat system that gives players a fair amount of freedom, while keeping the levels tight enough for choreographed action sequences. The outdoor areas in one of the earliest planets, Zepho in particular, are brilliant, and show Fallen Order at its absolute best. Well-paced combat, beautiful vistas, epic music, and fantastic environmental design make it a joy to play, successfully striking that balance of exploration and challenging gameplay. The routes are winding but navigable, and at this point the environmental puzzles revolve around mobility and timing your use of force powers, such as freezing an object, to climb on it. Fallen Order's environmental storytelling is intricate and detail-oriented, and focuses on something previously given little attention in Star Wars: the impact of the Empire's war machine, and how it touches even small communities on every planet in the galaxy. To balance things out though, there's also lots of details plotted for comedic effect, such as enemy placement. Those stormtroopers can never catch a break. Speaking of stormtroopers though, Respawn's done an incredible job of bringing these enemies to life, to a point where we felt genuinely bad for killing some of them, perhaps inadvertently creating one of the better moral questions in Fallen Order. At this point in Star Wars lore, troopers are conscripts, not clones, and you can hear the variety of attitudes towards their work when sneaking around ahead of a fight. Some exhibit a kind of fascist attitude towards their jobs, and purge troopers display a zealous desire to fulfill their purpose by killing Jedi, but many are just in the middle of regular conversations, expressing how they don't want to end up on garbage duty, how they didn't sleep the night before, another complaining to an officer that their potential is being wasted on a barren planet. Mid-fight, some of them will sarcastically remark about being the last one standing, or voice hesitation at taking on a Jedi. The mundanity of the conversations and honesty of their reactions make them both comical and relatable. And there's at least one high ground joke to satisfy the prequel memes subreddit. But back to Zepho. The furrowed landscapes also provide an excellent stage for Fallen Order's combat, giving players room to breathe between encounters and largely leaving a fair but challenging amount of time between meditation spots. Effectively, save points. If that sounds familiar, it's because it is. Fallen Order uses a combat system that leans heavily on From Software games, with an emphasis on timed parries, dodges, and using tactics tailored to each of the diverse sets of enemies, whose patterns of attack, including unblockable attacks, you'll have to memorize. Resting at meditation points allows you to heal and reset your health stims, but doing this also respawns enemies, so you'll have to consider whether it's worth risking the hop to the next one. If that ends badly, you'll drop whatever XP you've racked up from killing enemies on the enemy that defeated you. In turn, killing this golden glowing enemy then restores your life, a nice little boost in a tough fight. That XP eventually turns into skill points, which can be spent in Fallen Order's skill tree to unlock various abilities and perks. These are divided into 3 branches: Force, Lightsaber, and Survival, with new combat abilities made available for purchase as the story progresses and Cal learns new skills. It's more a matter of prioritizing which abilities you want first, rather than customizing to your specific playstyle, as by the end of the game, most of the main skills will be available. As a Souls-like game, the inevitable question is, how hard is Fallen Order? Well, that's kind of up to you. The game gives you 4 difficulty options: Story, Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, and Jedi Grandmaster, with the harder modes narrowing your parrying window and increasing enemy aggression, and Cal taking more damage. The recommended ability, Jedi Knight, does a good job of balancing challenge with accessibility for players not used to tough melee combat, although there are some difficulty spikes in late-game boss fights. For the most part, the combat is solid. You have to exercise patience and think about the order in which to tackle groups of enemies, particularly when some are ranged, and which tactics will take down an enemy as fast as possible. Correctly timing a parry to open an enemy to a cinematic finishing move is incredibly satisfying, as is routinely shoving enemies off edges. Although you can't do this with bigger enemies, there is a limit to the cheesing. Playing blaster bolt tennis with a Viper droid is utterly ridiculous, and therefore, great.
Could use a little help, Evie.
I owe you one.
Yet, sadly, the fun doesn't last, and thus begins Fallen Order's turn to the dark side. One of Fallen Order's biggest selling points is its Metroidvania influence, namely the use of myriad unfolding paths that unlock as you acquire new abilities. With a level map to help players navigate, green means the route is unlocked, red is a no-go. It's simultaneously the game's biggest asset and biggest flaw, a double-edged lightsaber, if you will. Once you've initially explored a brand new planet, retraversing to find bonus pickups and cosmetics is great. You're excited to explore the nooks and crannies, everything's fresh, and you're willing to spend that time because you're the person initiating the optional exploring. At that point too, the maps are small enough that it doesn't take an age to hike them. In the middle of the game, however, the story objectives ask you to revisit the same few planets, and this is when the Metroidvania elements become incredibly tedious. The objectives are normally placed beyond everything you've already explored, which is a long way to walk. While you can unlock shortcuts, these are often hard to spot in the all-blue, complicated level maps, and are no longer marked in the bright yellow colour that indicates an unexplored area. In any case, most shortcuts aren't significant enough to make a big enough dent in travel time. With the buzz of exploring a new world now gone, you have a lot less patience to go back through complicated, winding tunnels. Then, once you've completed your objective, the worst part of all, you have to trek all the way back to the ship, a process which can take over 20 minutes of hacking your way through enemies you've already defeated. Even Dark Souls eventually got a fast travel option about 2/3 of the way through, and Fallen Order is crying out for something similar. The one thing that could inspire you to keep grinding through all of this would have been the promise of gripping story developments. But, sadly, there's very little of that here. You're constantly being ferried between the ship and the objective, chasing the holotapes of a dead Jedi to collect stuff, in order to collect more stuff. It feels like a never-ending breadcrumb trail with no real emotional payoff, and unfortunately, the main characters, Cal included, are never really given a chance to shine. Apart from maybe Grease and his consistently humorous and engaging dialogue. But one interesting character does not a good story make. Additionally, there's simply nothing clever about the story. Themes of failure and dealing with guilt and trauma are thrown around, but never explored in any depth. The game just doesn't allow time for it. The other characters remain on the ship, so you're normally stuck with Cal's bland exchanges with his droid, while the cutscenes are all business and all about the next objective. Ultimately, Fallen Order has a story that barely develops. It's a story without clear direction, a story without risk, and it kind of makes Fallen Order feel like a slog after a while. You need that promise of an interesting story arc to make wading through waves of enemies worthwhile. maybe the Soulsborne format just isn't the best fit for Star Wars. In order to provide challenge, enemies have to be struck several times, and this has the effect of making lightsabers feel underpowered. Perhaps it makes sense when Cal is at the beginning of his journey, but even when Cal is at his most powerful, it takes about 3 slashes to down an overgrown rat. Lightsaber fights also feel less epic with Cal flopping on the floor while you're trying to figure out an enemy's attack pattern. You do get more abilities and skills, and you can increase your HP and force, but Fallen Order never really lets you take the gloves off. The reason behind limiting your force meter is to make players engage with the fast parrying melee combat, as you restore the meter through killing enemies or hitting blocked ones if you unlock that perk. But given the fact that you have to frequently pass through areas previously explored and conquered, imagine the fun it would have been to be let loose with Cal's increased force powers and a harder hitting lightsaber, cutting through enemies like so many younglings. Fallen Order has an incredible gameplay experience at its core, with fantastic environments and well-directed action sequences. It's just a shame that it's let down by some fundamental design problems and a dull story. A Star Wars Souls-like sounds like an incredible experience on paper, but perhaps in the end, it wasn't the game we're looking for. Will you be picking it up? Let us know in the comments, let us know what you thought of it, or just whether you're a natural Sith or Jedi. Personally, I'd definitely be hanging with the dark side. Just because of the red lightsabers, you understand, it's my favourite colour. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe for more gaming videos. We've got a brand new one on the channel every single day. But no worries if not. Thanks for watching this one. Bye!